Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to another episode of Spilly Tea. I'm your host, Tiffany Daniels. We are going back to that horrible world known as the JRC, but before we do the usual disclaimers, if you are unfamiliar with the Stop the Shocks campaign or the campaign against the troubled teen industry, you're going to find all the pertinent links right there in the description box. Please, in particular, take note of the article written by NeuroClastic, a small non-for-profit started by autistics for autistics. In it, they interviewed over 800 ABA professionals in regards to the JRC's so-called behavior modification program. The Judge Rotenberg Educational Center doesn't want you to read that article so much. They threatened NeuroClastic with a defamation lawsuit if they did not remove it from the website. NeuroClastic refused, you know the drill. Please read the article. Share on all your social media. Also included is NeuroClastic's public statement regards to the defamation lawsuit threat, as well as a link to their GoFundMe. We are crowdfunding just in case the JRC ever actually does see through with their threat. Trigger warning 1. When we discuss places like the Judge Rotenberg Educational Center or Agape Boarding School for Boys, you're going to hear vivid descriptions of and catch clips or surveillance footage of people with mental health issues and disabled people being tortured and abused. If you got young children present, please use your headphones. Trigger warning 2. This channel is marked not for kids for a reason. We use profanity on occasion and speak on dark subjects. If your child is 16 and younger and they are watching this, very obviously parental supervision is very much advised. Alright, folks, now, I know I have not done lives in an excessively long time, but a lot of changes have been happening in personal life, and I'm just trying to keep ahead of it all. Meanwhile, because, reasons apparently, there's going to be another way date in October, which means I never get a break. Alright, so let's get to it. Enough with me complaining, right? Okay, so where we left off the other day, this alternative may make some individuals worse off if they would experience more self-injurious or aggressive behavior with an abrupt change in behavioral modification plans than they would experience with an extended compliance period. Allow me to make this cut and dry for you all. Any change at all, even for our own betterment, even if it is us who is deciding upon said change, is gonna cause issues. It is what it is. It is completely unavoidable. It's part of the diagnosis I've just learned how to deal with. Okay? Whenever a change is made, even for the better, me keeping up with the house, for example, there was a period of time where I had, as I call it on here, autistic fog brain. Okay? Where I would forget things that I would normally do, forget to call pharmacies, forget to do this and to do that. It's inevitable. Okay? So even if you give us what they call an extended compliance period, to make the adjustment a little bit easier and so the behaviors won't be so abrupt. I'm sorry to bust your bubble, but even under the best of circumstances, there's going to be issues. This is what we are, okay? We have difficulties with change, good or bad, even if we've been warned ahead of time, okay? Now, add in the fact that we are dealing with kids who have been horrifically tortured and abused. And you are taking them out of that situation where that device is no longer there to torture them. You see, it doesn't matter whether you just kind of wean them off the device or do it cold turkey. The fallout is going to be brutal. Point blank, period. Just like the fallout is brutal anytime you're dealing with a neurodivergent who's been abused. Okay? You're staring headlong into burnout, pent up years of rage and anger and pain, and how that manifests, folks, when we're first coming out of a situation like that is, guess what? Behaviors. What have I told you all before? When I am stressed out, or when I'm angry, and when I am overwhelmed, the not so fun parts of my diagnosis come out to haunt me. Guess what? It's one of the very few things that is the same across the board. Okay? So, regardless of how you try to prep the kids for it, there's going to be a fallout. You're dealing with kids who are not just neurodivergent, but kids who have been tortured with impunity for years. Years. When you put them in a safe space for quite some time, you're going to have to deal with the fallout of behaviors and behavioral issues and PTSD triggering. It's going to happen. Okay? No amount of prep work or weaning is really going to stop that from happening. All right? Whether you extend it or don't extend it, the fallout is usually the same. And the fact that there is going to be repercussions of these kids coming through all these years of abuse. Okay? And it takes years. Trust me, I speak from experience. It takes years. Years to get back at least somewhat where you were before these evil sons of bitches came into these poor kids' lives. Okay? So, I understand why the FDA is concerned. I just need these folks like the FDA, like government officials, like everyone from the medical model, to wrap your brains around the fact and to understand that lengthy, extended compliance time or not, these kids are going to have a brutal reaction as soon as they are in a safe space away from their abusers. Okay? Again, I know this from experience. I've lived it. I'm still living it. Every day it gets a little bit better. Some days it's worse. But when you first come out of it is when the most brutal part of dealing with that change out of what you just came out of, being able to finally express and feel all the emotions you have locked away, locked away, locked away, locked away. Some of these kids for years. You see where I'm going with this, right? Now, if you're inside the medical model who gets one of these kids transferred to your facility, do not assume that the reason why the behaviors are worse is because they're no longer on the device, so obviously they need to go back to it. Because that's batshit insane, too. Okay? The behaviors are not worse because they have to be hooked to a torture device. Their behaviors are worse because they have kept all these emotions and feelings pent up and locked away for years. You get us out of the abusive situation, we very quickly become overwhelmed because the floodgates open of all that shit. all those emotions, everything hitting at once. Okay? And you know what? You got to let it happen. Now, I'm not telling you to try and minimize the damage. You absolutely should do that. But keep in mind that those behaviors are probably going to come out. They're going to probably be more intense than they had been previously because these kids have locked their emotions away for so damn long that they've got years and years of baggage that is finally being let out. Don't assume that that means that obviously these psychopaths were doing the right thing. Realize exactly who you're dealing with in regards to that survivor being neurodivergent. Prepare yourselves as well as you can in regards to transitioning from that Disney acid trip from hellhole. And expect it. Okay? All right, let me go ahead and continue here. Other individuals may benefit as they may experience more adverse effects of the device with a longer transition period than if the device was removed immediately. Again, it's like they're treating this device like a drug. I mean, on one hand, I can kind of see that. Some of us get addicted to negative shit happening to us. Hi, I'm one of those people. It is probably one of the reasons why I am constantly convinced that the other shoe is going to drop all the time. Thank God they finally put me on medication. Because that paranoia drives not just me, but everyone around me slowly into madness. But yeah, you're treating it as though you're weaning it off a pill. Like, I weaned myself off of Adderall as I got into adulthood. I think part of that is we've never had to deal with this kind of thing before. Even within the medical model, having to wean someone off of a torture device. We'll see what the fallout is, but in the end, you got to expect, just like with every other abuse survivor and torture survivor out there, for a good long moment, there's going to be issues. Those issues are going to be more intense than they had been previously because you've got kids with pent up rage, anger, and pain that they've been shoving aside, shoving aside, shoving aside for years that will finally be able to air to see the light of day without somebody shocking them into a coma. So just, you know, longer transition time, shorter transition time, there's going to be a brutal fallout. It is what it is. I would recommend in situations like this, pharmacology, medicine, medicine, to help at least taper off and ease some of that, to clarify thoughts, to kind of take the edge off so that the person who's dealing with this doesn't feel so completely overwhelmed and out of control. Let me continue. Thus, a shorter transition would move up potential benefits as individuals would be expected to the risk of the device for a shorter period. Yes, that is the point. That is the point I'm trying to make. Long or short, there's going to be a fallout. I recommend it be overseen by a physician that has zero ties to the JRC. I would recommend that in cases that really need it, that some medication, at least at the very beginning, be introduced to help keep these kids' minds clear instead of being just overwhelmed by the weight of it all, I would recommend that they need immediate therapy. These kids are going to need full teams. That full functional behavioral assessment that should have been done years ago needs to happen next to immediately as humanly possible. And that full functional behavioral assessment needs to be done by literally anybody else but the JRC. Only makes sense, right? Yeah, just saying. All right. We're going to close out on that one. We'll start the next paragraph here in the next video. We don't get very many views on this channel. The few we do get do tend to get removed from time to time. You know the drill. Please don't forget to hit the like button, hit subscribe. Don't forget to hit those comments. I appreciate your time this afternoon. As always, folks, we here at Spilling Tea hope you have a good one. I'll see you all in a minute. Bye-bye, everyone.